So today's podcast, I am joined by the best Brazilian SEO, is Felipe Bazon. Hopefully, I've said that or pronounced that properly. I've never actually said your surname before. I just call you Felipe with a crazy laugh. But thank you very much for taking the time to come onto the podcast. It's always good to have someone from another culture, a different. Uh, yeah, we're in the same industry, but different levels of competition and stuff. So, be interesting to find out more about that. So, for anyone who doesn't know you, though, Felipe, can you give us a bit of a background of what you do, where you're based, and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me here, Craig. Yeah, I was surprised when I dropped you the message and you said, let's talk it straight away. So, first things first, you pronounced my name correctly. It's Felipe Bazon. I've been doing SEO for quite some time now. As you guys already know, I'm from Brazil, but I've learned the trade back in the UK in 2007 when I worked in this small agency called THUK based in Bedford. Then I did a bit of work from my mom's house in Spain. So I was doing mainly when I started doing link building, all back in the glorious days of directory submissions and article marketing, article spinning. In fact, today I was talking with Alan, which is the founder of Hedgehog, the company that I'm in today. We're talking about article robots. So for you guys that are a bit seasoned in the industry, it goes back to the before 2010 or before Penguin. You will remember that. And then after that, I made a move back to Brazil where I was head of SEO of this agency called SEO Marketing. At the time, one of the leading SEO agencies in the country. We used to do a lot of like multinational companies. That was like I became a bit more professional in SEO, if you will, covering all the areas from link building to technical content and so on. And back 2 years ago, I decided to quit that and join Hedgehog, which is the company that THUK led to it. And the founder, Alan, and I were business partners. And I joined Hedgehog to be head of SEO, to focus in the UK. And in the same year, we saw the opportunity that here in the Brazilian market to come down here and start offering our services as well. So today I live between the UK, Spain, and Brazil, which is where I am at the moment. Like we just opened the office here in São Paulo. We have been operating here for 2 years now, but recently we just opened the office. We were like, I used to call it, we were an agency in the clouds, but now we have a physical operation here with about 5 people in the staff, few freelancers. And this is my background, Craig. Hopefully, that's all of it.
Interesting background, and as I say, it's interesting that you have the Brazilian background though, and operate in different countries, and even working in Spain and stuff. I'm assuming you've got a good background in kind of the international markets, if you like. And obviously that's something we want to talk about. It's something a lot of people don't talk about. I think Alida Solis is one of the ones that talks about it, at conferences and whatnot. But I think to hear, you talking about it and kind of how you find it works and just various other things about international markets, I'm looking forward to hearing about. So what kind of markets are you working in? Do you focus on just Brazil, or I know you Hedgehog and everything are based in the UK, but primarily that doesn't mean you have to work in the UK market. You could be operating in, you could be doing Scandinavian stuff or whatever it may be. So what markets are you operating in at the moment?
Right. I joke that if it's in English, Portuguese, or Spanish, we can optimize. We can do SEO for you. So basically today we're focusing a lot in the Iberian Peninsula, like Portugal and Spain. And then I would say, the whole of Latin America with a lot of emphasis in Brazil. So we have a couple of clients in Spain. We have one client in Portugal. We have a few clients like here in South America, like Colombia and all, and Brazil. Mainly our focus is Brazil, where we don't focus on like a specific niche. We just offer a complete SEO suite down here. So anyone that's obviously our fit and have the budget to work with us, we'll do the SEO services for them. But mainly, I would say, yeah, we do focus a lot in Brazil and outside the UK, obviously, and a bit of like as I said, Europe, Portugal, and Spain, which it's a interesting scenario. Like it's just like thing I'd like to add to it. Back in the days when I was living in Spain, my mom lives in Alicante, and just last year I found out that is the strongest SEO community in the country, like in Spain. So it's a lot of agencies. I met people after events there. So I lived there for about 6 years doing SEO and didn't even know they had such a very strong community there. So yeah, I found it very, very amusing that after years afterwards, I found out that the area that I used to live in, that what a coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah. So no, I'm assuming. I'm not even going to assume because I know the answer to this before I even ask it. It's going to sound daft, but obviously, Brazilian guys speak Portuguese, but Spanish is a completely different language altogether. Are you fluent in Spanish as well?
Yes, it's a totally different language. And if I may compliment on that, there is a difference between Portuguese from Portugal and Portuguese from Brazil. There are certain nuances in the language that's different, like grammatically. It's, I would say, 90% the same, but it's more or less like English and British, slightly different. And Spanish is a totally different beast, and especially when you look from not just from comparing Portuguese with Spanish, that's obviously totally different. But when you look into doing SEO, for instance, or just content, if you will, for Spain and for Latin America, each specific country, you need to understand, you need to have a native writer there, people that know the differences of the language, because it's all bundled up here down in South America, yeah? But if you move from Peru to Chile to Argentina to Colombia, there are differences in the language. There are different differentiators that you need to understand to work, to do a content that is well optimized for them, that will resonate with that audience. But yeah, this is what I find most amusing. That's most of our challenge as we expand to all these countries, finding people that could be native. I'm a native, speaking of Spanish, and English and Portuguese, obviously. But yeah, every time we explore, we start doing a business for a different country, I always look for someone that's native, because it's different. In Spain, I'm totally covered. But as I'm down here, funny enough, I need to find specific people because there are differences in the language.
Yeah. So how does the differences in the language then transfer into SEO? Are there problems with that, or is that quite an easy fix? Just simply get in and change, or do these things have to be completely rewritten? Especially the kind of Brazilian Portuguese and the Brazilian Brazil side of things. Is it just a couple of tweaks here and there, or does it have to be completely rewritten?
Well, from a Google standpoint, let's say it doesn't have to be rewritten. The content that I produce here will rank well in Portugal, and say the content that you produce for Spanish or Spain will rank well on South American countries, that's Latin America countries. I have a little, like, Victor from Rock Content, yeah?
Yes.
Funny enough, the other day, a couple of years ago, actually, I was invited to speak at this event in Madrid called Omexpo about e-commerce and all. And then as I got there, I said, I need to translate my my presentation to Spanish, obviously, just to be more friendly, And I started doing some research on like what SEO and stuff in Spain. And all of a sudden I saw this website called Marketing de Contenidos. I said, this sounds familiar, you know? And as I got in and start looking at it, the content, I downloaded an ebook from them, and then boom, I saw rock content. And I pick up the phone, or actually the Facebook Messenger, said, Victor, are you guys doing anything here in Spain? He said, no, I'm not doing anything in Spain. We just expanded to Mexico. I said, do you know you're ranking first for everything here in Spain? So answering your question, it does work for Google. You don't really need to rewrite it. But from a user standpoint, if you want to kind of like resonate with the Spanish audience, you have to have those nuances of the language that the Spanish people are used to. And then you go to Mexico, similar, and so on. So if you're really thinking about user point of view and together with Google, you need to be specific to each country. But if it's like a broad strategy, you don't really need to rewrite things. What you write for Spain will work in Mexico, and so on.
Interesting. And just talking about the international side of things, what are the common things that, say, someone like me who probably doesn't, that's a lie, actually. I have got international experience, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert in it, I do it all the time or anything like that. But what are the kind of common mistakes for people who go from doing kind of local SEO to doing international SEO? What are the main differences? I know there's going to be a lot of different things, but what are the kind of main changes that you would make from someone going from local to international? It's never going to be that easy. A lot of people think you can just toss out any old website and hope for the best in different countries. There's a lot more to it than that. But just in a kind of briefer way, what are the main pain points?
Well, I would say I would divide that in two segments. Like, for instance, most of I assume that people will listen to your podcast are like seasoned SEOs, or even if they're for the non-savvy ones. I'd say from the technical standpoint, you need to work out with your signals, right? Like from Ahrefs and sitemaps specific to each language and so on. But that is just like, I would say, the tip of the iceberg, because what you really need to focus on is on the local signals. What I mean by that, like when you need to position your brand in that area. It's not simply let Google index it and I'm fine with it. I think people kind of like when they expand, they forget that it's not just the website, it's not just the technicalities of it. You need to think about how you position your brand in that country, what you're doing, like not just from a content point of view, but also from building the authority and the trustworthiness of your presence in those areas. And I found that a lot of like people that try to expand to other countries, they don't really focus on that. They just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to translate my website and I'm just going to index it and see if it works. No, it's not like that. And I'm just going to build a few links. You need to kind of like, I find that Google is really looking into those signals nowadays. And I give you the example. We are the website for the Google Brazil, if you will, Hedgehog, is rather new. So we still don't have that massive rankings and all, because we're still building the reputation down here, like from events to social media, or giving all the signals to Google. So I'd say people kind of like fail in that, understand that it's not just about, oh, I'm going to internationalize my website, translate it and let Google index it and I'm fine. So they forget about the most important bit, which is the brand. That is what I find the flaw that people really make on that end.
Yeah. I think obviously there's always going to be flaws, whether it's a site migration or whether you jump over to targeting international countries and stuff like that. I hear of a lot of small companies who start off, for example, in the UK, and then they want to branch out into the kind of Spanish market and the French market, just as an example. And you hear people saying, get the .fr and the .es domain name and launch separate websites on there. And then you've got other people who'll argue, to keep it on the main domain name and just do / EN or whatever the tags are, or FR or whatever it may be. What would your advice be to someone on that? What is the best way to expand out into the international market?
Well, I would say from experience working with international brands that have like Robert Half and Weight Watchers, I'd say the top level domain still performs better. Like, it's not just a fingers in the air kind of opinion. Obviously, we have companies like that we monitor, like Salesforce and others, that have international websites and they use the .com and then the subdirectory of the language they're looking for, do a good job with Ahref links. But all the clients, we have clients on both sides of the spectrum here. And the ones that use TLDs, like top level domains, .com, .co.br, tend to perform better. So we look at that. We saw that I would recommend that you go with top level domains. It might be a bit more costly, but the benefits from a Google SEO standpoint and SEO standpoint, actually, I would say top level domains are the best. I always look at the top notch guys. Amazon, what do they do? .co.uk,
Yeah.
.com. If they're doing that, and they rely a lot on SEO, don't they, on organic. So, yeah, I know it might not be the best example, but I like to base not just on that, but from experience, I would say TLDs all the way.
Yeah, I think for me, if I was being faced with the question, you've got to look at the bigger players in the market. They're not going to be messing about. If they think that using the top level TLDs is the way forward, then of course that, Amazon are going to be are hopefully seeking the right advice, and getting the right advice from the right professional people. And I think it's not always a bad thing to be looking at the bigger players in the worldwide markets. So it's I think that would be the answer I would always like to go for. But you always hear conflicting information on that subject, and it's, people do have good examples of doing it the other way as well. And it's hard to argue, when someone has also got success doing it another way as well. But I just wanted to get your input on that.
Well,
In terms of international SEO, though, how different, right? So here is some of the findings that I've got. So obviously, in the UK, for example, things are, Google are very on the ball. They're looking for spammers. They're looking to, catch out people who are doing maybe things that they shouldn't be doing. And for example, in the likes of Poland, you can get away with a hell of a lot more spam tactics than you would in the UK. How does that translate into international SEO? Is it, what kind of guidelines are you following? Can you push the boundaries a wee bit more in international SEO, or do you still take the same precautions as you maybe would in the UK or the US?
well, I always find myself in this discussion when I'm talking from someone like from the UK and the US, and for me, I had the same discussion with Judith Lewis the other day. For us, it's the same. I'd say Brazil is in the same spectrum of the UK and the US. All the shady tactics that kind of like could get you in trouble up there will work here as well. So, and I'm seeing that since I operate in both, let's say, countries, I see when they roll out the updates, it's fastly getting Brazil now, as opposed before it used to take quite some time. Like this core update that's happening, slowly rolling out. It's not that we're seeing it, because sometimes they don't even affect us, but they are like, we can sense them or feel them, let's say it, quicker than it before. But answering your question more precisely, what you guys can't do it there, we cannot do it here as well. So shady tactics, and we cannot push the boundaries as much as you said in Poland. And I say that not just from Brazil, from Latin America and Spain as well. And to be very, very honest, it's not my style to keep pushing too much the boundaries. I'm trying, since I work most of my my SEO life, let's say, it's with clients, and I cannot keep trying to do things that could get them into trouble. So I try to be as inside the line as possible. But I have friends that do work with monetization and so on. There's a big community here of affiliate marketing in Brazil. And yeah, they keep pushing the boundaries, and the same penalty that you guys get they get here. So I would say in this spectrum here, similar. It's not different. What happens up there for you guys? The Google is as rigorous as up there, I'd say.
Yeah, it was just curious to know because, as I say, I've never personally worked in your space in Brazil, so I was just curious to know if there was, it was seen to be easier. I mean, would you say that the level of competition in Brazil is equally as strong as like the UK and the US as well in terms of, you know, SEO knowledge, SEO experience, the aggression with link building and all of that kind of stuff? Is it all equally as competitive there than it is, potentially here?
No, that is definitely not. Like UK and US are a different ball game. I like it because it pushes me to try and elevate the level to work in the UK, and it's a big competitive advantage for us down here in Brazil. So as I'm always like competing with you guys, more seasoned SEOs, if you will, I learn a lot and I bring it over here, so I have a competitive advantage. You said about link building. That is one of the areas that I found that people are still very behind down here. Like they're still relying a lot on guest bloggings and not putting very strong link building campaigns up. I'm not going to even go down the road what link works and what doesn't, but I found it that they just focus on one thing. They're not thinking outside the box and doing like creative campaigns like we see a lot in the UK. Companies like doing that from a different kind of perspective, like more of a digital PR, a link earning point of view, not link building. So that's a huge difference, and I would say another point, technical as well. Technical SEO, we got some good guys in Europe and in the US and in Brazil. They're still there are good ones, don't get me wrong, yeah? But the majority of the industry is still a little bit behind. I wouldn't say too much, but there's a difference between working in the UK with more seasoned, with more experienced. It's a more experienced industry than opposed to Brazil. So yeah, there's a difference there, definitely.
I think it's just curious. I think I was in France speaking at an event earlier on in the year, and there was guys that were selling links on the kind of stalls that you get, or the kind of stands round about the event. And me and a friend were speaking to someone who was selling links, and we spoke to them, and they were still selling links from old newspaper articles and stuff, and charging like $1,500 for it, and we're like, fuck, this is really bad link building, if that's all you're doing over here in France. So I was curious to know, as I say, it's always fact finding and getting information. I think a lot of people are actually behind in terms of, the kind of advanced stuff, link building and stuff, whereas everyone in the UK, as you know, and probably in a lot of other countries, are looking for every way to break the system and rank well and do things easy and spam and all of that kind of stuff. And I do affiliate marketing and obviously push the boundaries to a fairly decent level where I can. Obviously, I wouldn't do that for a client, but when it's your own neck that's on the line and stuff like that, then I don't feel there's too much of a problem with pushing the boundaries in that respect. But so, what sort of things are working well in Brazil? Like, is it just on-page site speed, all the usual stuff, or or is the Brazilian algorithm not even up to as up to date as that either? How advanced do you have to be to rank in Brazil?
Well, I would say you have to be pretty well advanced because you do really need, it's not just the content won't cut it, because there's a lot of people doing good stuff down here. They're on the content side of things. And as I said, where they lack experience and they lack to do a good job is with links. So what's really making a difference for us here is working with a different approach from to link building. As I said, more or less on the link earning side of things. But yeah, I'm not gonna be stubborn here. Say we don't ask for links anymore. We just attract them. Obviously, we do approach the the publishers and the big news portals here in Brazil. But that is, I would say, what you need to do. It's just a good content and good performance and a good experience will not cut it. You do still need the links and yeah, I would say which doesn't differentiate too much from the UK and the US. You need a good content, you need a good website, performing well, good experience. But what makes the difference between, say, middle or first page to top three? Continue to be the links. And
Yeah,
yeah, I would say you do really need those heavy weight links, and this is what we have been kind of like focusing down here. I'm avoiding as much as I can guest blogging and all. Not gonna lie, that I still don't do it. Obviously, I do it because they have its value, but you just need to be a bit more thorough in the analysis of what blogs you should be doing for your clients. But we're really going after building links with news outlets, big news portals, and all because I remember, I think Ross told me once that I saw an article that he wrote, can't remember to where he says like the editorial industry, the publishing industry is kind of like broke. They really need content. They're eager for that. And that kind of like stuck in my brain. And this is what I use, we're approaching the news outlets, news portals here in Brazil with that approach. I'm producing you a content that will give you page views, that will give you interactions. And obviously I want that link. And this is what we have been focusing on, and this is the differentiator here. This is how advanced you need to be to get to the top, I'd say.
yeah. No, it's interesting. But in terms of out with how competitive it is and the strategies that are involved with ranking a website, in terms of monetization, I'm guessing that there's as much money to be made in Brazil by ranking well online. As people in my experience, and I'm again not talking about Brazil specifically, but there are so many opportunities where I feel that people obsess over the UK and the US and don't look at opportunities. So, for example, the UK has around about 62 million people that stay in the UK. And it's ultra competitive. Everyone's in SEO and everyone's fighting for every last bit of money there is. Where a country like Germany, for example, has 85 million people, all searching stuff, and it's less competitive, in my opinion. And it would make perfect sense to stop obsessing over the UK and go to rank well in Germany and stuff like that. And I know lots of people are currently doing that, and I'm just curious to know, is that the same in Brazil, where there's still a lot of money to be made and it's just an untapped market?
Definitely, definitely. You just gave us some figures of the whole population of those countries. Yeah, UK and Germany, 66 and 85, I think. Brazil, online, we have 110 million online.
Jeez.
So yeah, almost double the UK, 20% more than the whole population of Germany and also we have about, I think the last census was 200 million people in Brazil, 110 online. Yeah. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people. There is an opportunity to grow here. Like we're not going for an economic crisis, but we are in a recession, let's say it. And the only area of the economy that has grown 2 digits year over year for the past 10 years is digital marketing and e-commerce. So more and more people getting online, and there is a lot of opportunity. I know a guy that you like that is making quite a bit of money down here, which saw this opportunity, I would say 5 years ago. Is Neil
Mm-hmm.
Patel. He's been down
Right.
here like he's got a bit of reputation, but he's still making a lot. He's dominating kind of like rankings, and he saw it. He saw it, and as I said, as you asked, there's opportunity for more people to come down here. I should have been inviting you guys, but answering your question, yes, there is an opportunity. It is, I wouldn't say untapped market, because there is competition. It's not going to be easy for you guys if you come down here, but obviously there are opportunities. 110 million people online and growing, and yeah, definitely.
That's amazing. I didn't realise Brazil had as many people. I know it's a fairly big place in the grand scheme of things compared to the UK in terms of the size on the map. But it's 110 million people is a hell of a lot of people to be able to market to. And I think actually I've heard, I think it was Vitor who told me previously that Neil Patel was doing stuff in Brazil. So it's obviously interesting to hear that guys, even guys like Neil Patel are always looking for opportunities to make money in other countries and expand and take advantage of, maybe slightly less competition, if you like. But I think that's the same across the board, not necessarily, just targeting Brazil. I think there's so many other opportunities in terms of back in the EU, like Scandinavia and stuff like that. The SEO is certainly not as hot as it is in the UK and the US. So I think if people put their mind to it, there are opportunities to make money online, because I often hear guys coming into the industry and saying, like, I'm so far behind, I can't possibly start a business in this niche because there's so much competition. And I'm like, that's the wrong thought process. All you need to do is find a niche, a product, a service in a country. I think no one's dominating the whole world out there yet, and that may change in 20 years' time or something. But I think there's a lot of untapped opportunities. It's great to hear that Brazil's. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's great to hear Brazil is another one of those opportunities for anyone wanting to do anything. I know the likes of certain countries, for example, Australia and stuff like that, you actually have to have residential status there before you can get an Australian domain name and stuff like that. Is that similar in Brazil as well?
Nowadays, not so much, because you can get some domains through GoDaddy now. So you don't really need to be a resident in Brazil. So because last time I checked, they were selling .com.br domains. But again, that's easily worked around, Brazil,
Yeah.
that is one of the flaws that we have, We have too many breaches in the law. There's always another way of doing things. So, I shouldn't be saying that here, but that's the reality of our country. Unfortunately, that's why we have so much corruption, because there's always a way of doing things here. We call it the Brazilian way. There's always the Brazilian way of doing things.
Maybe that's why I've always had a strong love for Brazil. Although I've never been, I've always liked Brazilian footballers. Ronaldinho's my idol. I like you, Vitor. They're always characters, and I've watched a lot of stuff about Brazil and on the telly about the favelas and all of that kind of stuff. But I think corruption's not always a bad thing. To a certain degree, if there's another way of doing things, then I don't like things that are too rigid and locked down, where you can't get into a specific niche because no one will sell you a domain name and whatever. But yeah, it's nice to hear that in Brazil, as long as you know a guy, things can happen. So it's also another thing. I'll need to do research in the Brazilian market now, that you can sort me out with whatever I need.
Definitely.
But so what kind of things in the Brazilian market are big? I know that's going to be, it depends on what you like, but is it the same kind of niches here, or is there anything obscure over there that's really big? I know certain countries have different things they look at and stuff, but what's big? Is it gambling over there, or is it shopping? I'm not saying tell us a niche down to selling kitchen utensils or something, but what are the big niches over there? What is big and hot at the moment?
I would say gambling. It's fairly new down here. Well, obviously people know about gambling, but a lot of the law has changed. So now websites of the likes like Bet365 and others, it's a big boom down here. And I would say it's the untapped niche online. A lot of people are getting into it, and it's becoming a fever down here. And these companies are coming strong from let's say advertisement point of view, but I'm not seeing people really pushing that online. So I would say definitely Gambo is the niche to exploit down here online. It's a big market. Well, it's always been illegal to gamble in Brazil, but now it's becoming legal. But as I said, there was always the gambling, the illegal gambling. Like there is this gamble, this game, I would say, this lottery here in Brazil that's related to animals. So each animal is a name, and they run this every day. So it's massive. It's obviously illegal, but it's massive. Like in Rio, São Paulo, all this money finances the drug trafficking and all. But what I'm saying is Brazilian likes gambling. They have always been doing that. And now it's becoming legal, and it's becoming a huge industry here. So definitely online and niche to exploit here. And I don't see many people doing so.
Yeah, I was curious because I was at an event in Poland last month, and they were saying it's illegal, totally illegal to promote gambling and be a gambling person in Poland. Obviously, there's always going to be ways around that, but I was just curious to know if like Brazil, and I was curious in the gambling niche. It's obviously an interesting niche to know if that was something that was a viable option in Brazil. So anyone looking to do affiliate, Brazilian gambling's is there and waiting to be taken advantage of, if you like. But nah, we'll leave that for you, Felipe. So I know you're doing your Hedgehog digital stuff. Do you do any kind of affiliate stuff on the side? Or is it all strictly working for clients?
No, I never, I don't do it, and I never did. Mainly doing work for clients. Recently, I started my own blog after 10 years of the SEO. I finally put my blog up, putting a YouTube channel on, but I'm not really thinking about monetizing or anything just yet. So anything affiliate, no, I never done it. It's not on the horizon for me to do so as well. So I do. I follow up everything that's happening in the industry, but I really don't really have the time to get into it. I should, but I don't. That's the truth.
It's at least it's an honest answer as well. I think time is of the essence, and especially if you are, you're not operating some small agency. You're in Brazil, and there's offices in the UK and stuff. So it's not as if it's a small thing. I'm assuming your agency is doing very well, and you're scaling up and expanding and all of that kind of stuff, which is good to hear. But yeah, I get it. It's not easy to then also dive into affiliate. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
Yeah, time is something that's very crucial for me nowadays. When I'm in Brazil, for instance, I wake up at 5 a.m. because of the office in the UK, and I go to about 6, 7 in the night here in the evening here in Brazil. So long days, I wouldn't even have time to do it. Like I have to be very selective in what I'm doing. And it's mainly, as you said, focusing on the development of Hedgehog internationally. And I would love to do so, have something that I just see, there's AdSense money coming in, money. But unfortunately, not right now.
Yeah, no, there's always time. You're still young enough yet to be able to capitalise on all of that in the future. But sadly, Felipe, we are out of time. We have spoke for 40 minutes, which is probably about the optimal time for anyone listening. Hopefully, anyone listening enjoyed what you had to say and find out about the kind of markets that you operate in. If anyone's looking to get a hold of you, where's the best place they can find you?
Well, they can find me on Twitter at SEO Bazon. It's SEOBAZON. Or on LinkedIn as well, Felipe Bazon as well. So I'm more active in those two channels. So feel free to reach me out there, exchange knowledge. If you want to look into the Brazilian market, more than welcome to tell you the Brazilian way of doing things. And yeah, and if you just a little spoiler alert, Craig, you said you've never been to Brazil. There is an SEO conference in the horizon that's shaping up towards next year. So you might get an invite for that one if you are up
I'd love
for
to.
it.
I'd
Still
love
early
to.
days, but it's taking its shape.
Yeah, no, listen, more than happy to come out and see what's going on over there, and getting to explore another country. So count me in if the dates are suitable, then I'm there.
Sure.
But
We'll talk more about it.
no worries. But as I say, thanks again for taking the time to come on. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll bump into you at some point in the near future.
Sure, definitely. Thanks for having me again.
No
Well, it was
worries.
a pleasure.